Rain poured down on the small town as night fell. The old diner on Route 12 stayed open late, its neon sign blinking weakly in the storm. Inside, a boy named Alex sat alone in the corner booth, hands wrapped around a mug of hot chocolate that had long gone cold. He was small for 15, his thin frame swimming in a gray hoodie pulled low over his face. Every few minutes, he would glance up at the clock, then toward the door, then back down at his mug. The waitress, an older woman with kind eyes, walked over. "You okay, honey? Need a refill?" she asked, coffee pot in hand. Alex shook his head without looking up. When the bell above the door jingled, he stiffened, shoulders hunching even more. A large man entered, shaking water from his leather jacket. He stood 6'3" at least, with a thick gray beard and arms covered in faded tattoos. The patches on his vest marked him as a member of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. The waitress greeted him by name, Ray, and he nodded, his eyes scanning the nearly empty diner until they landed on Alex. Alex tried to make himself smaller as Ray walked over and slid into the booth across from him. The vinyl seat creaked under his weight. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sounds were the rain hitting the windows and the soft clink of dishes from the kitchen. "You've been watching the clubhouse for 3 days now," Ray said finally, his voice surprisingly gentle. "Sitting on that bench across the street, then following me here. Either order something real or tell me why." Alex's fingers trembled as he slowly pulled back one sleeve of his hoodie. In the harsh diner light, a pattern of small round burns stood out against his pale skin, some old and scarred, others fresher with angry red edges. "My dad," he whispered, his voice cracking. "He's been doing this since Mom died last year. Nobody believes me." Ray's weathered face hardened as he looked at the burns, perfectly circular marks that could only come from one thing. He'd seen such marks before, recognized them instantly for what they were: cigarette burns. "I ran away last week," Alex continued, reaching into his pocket to pull out a small, crumpled photo of a smiling woman with his same blue eyes. "This is all I have left of her. He burned all her other pictures." Alex's voice caught. "Said I didn't deserve to remember her." The boy glanced toward the door again, fear plain on his face. "He'll find me soon. He always does." Ray followed his gaze, then looked back at the boy. "Your father? What does he do?" "He's a deacon at First Street Church," Alex answered. "Everyone thinks he's perfect, a hero, raising a troubled kid all alone." A bitter smile crossed his face. "Nobody sees what happens when the doors close." Outside, the storm grew stronger, rain hammering against the glass. Ray tapped his fingers on the table, thinking. Then he pulled out his phone and placed it between them. "My name's Ray Dawson," he said, "vice president of our chapter, and I want you to tell me everything. Times, dates, what he says when he hurts you. Everything." Alex looked up, hope and fear battling in his eyes. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." Ray's gaze drifted to the window, where his reflection stared back before answering. "Let's just say I know what those burns feel like, kid. And I know what happens when nobody listens." The diner grew quiet as Alex spoke. His words came slowly at first, then faster, like water breaking through a dam. He told Ray about the house on Maple Street, the one with the perfect green lawn and white fence. From outside, it looked like a happy home. Inside was different. Inside was where the burns happened. "It started small after Mom died," Alex said, eyes fixed on the table. "He'd grab my arm too hard or push me against the wall. Then came the cigarettes." His voice dropped to a whisper. "He always makes sure to put them where no one can see." Ray nodded, his face like stone. He'd seen this before, how abusers hide their tracks. "Where's the worst place?" he asked. Alex touched his back. "Here. And my chest." He pulled his sleeve down to cover the marks again. "At school, I always change for Jim in the bathroom stall." The waitress brought Ray a coffee. He thanked her and waited until she walked away before speaking again. "How long since you've been home?" 5 days, Alex said. "I've been sleeping behind the library. I took some food from the church pantry." His cheeks turned red with shame. "I didn't know where else to go." Ray reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a candy bar, sliding it across the table. Alex stared at it for a moment before taking it, unwrapping it slowly like it might disappear. "You have any other family?" Ray asked. Alex shook his head. "Just Dad. Mom's parents died before I was born. Dad doesn't talk to his family." He took a small bite of chocolate. "There was my teacher, Mrs. Benson. She asked about the marks on my wrist once. 2 days later, she stopped asking. Dad's on the school board." Ray pulled out his phone and placed it on the table. "I know someone who helps kids like you, a counselor named Sarah. She works with the county." He pushed the phone toward Alex. "Call this number. Tell her everything you told me." As Alex reached for the phone, his hoodie rode up, showing more burns along his arm. Fresh ones, deep and angry. Ray's eyes narrowed. "When did these happen?" "Last night," Alex admitted. "I went home to get Mom's picture. He caught me." His voice shook. He said next time it would be the stove. Ray's hands curled into fists on the table. "Your father? What's his name?" "James Winters." Ray went still. "James Winters, the deacon at First Street Church? Runs the charity drives." Alex nodded, confused by Ray's reaction. "Tall man, always wears a tie, drives a silver car?" "Yes," Alex said. "How did you know?" Ray's jaw tightened. "Our club donated to his Christmas toy drive last month. He gave a speech about protecting the children in our community." A bitter laugh escaped him. "Stood right next to me, shook my hand for the papers, all while—" He didn't finish the sentence. Outside, the rain slowed to a steady drizzle. Ray looked at Alex's thin face, at the fear still lurking in his eyes, and made a decision. "Finish your hot chocolate," he said, pulling his phone back. "I need to make some calls." "What kind of calls?" Alex asked, worry creeping into his voice. Ray's eyes softened. "The kind that make sure you never have to go back there. The kind that make people listen." He pulled out his wallet and laid a 20 on the table. "First, we need to get you somewhere safe. My sister Lisa lives 10 minutes from here. She's a nurse. She can help with those burns." For the first time that night, hope flickered across Alex's face. Small and fragile, but there. Lisa's apartment was small but warm, with soft yellow walls and plants in every corner. She had brown hair tied back in a ponytail and Ray's same kind eyes. Her hands were gentle as she cleaned and bandaged Alex's burns. She didn't ask questions when Ray told her Alex needed a safe place to stay. "You take my bed," she told Alex. "I'll sleep on the couch." That night, Alex slept behind a locked door for the first time in months. He woke up twice, heart racing, sure his father had found him. But each time, he heard Ray's deep voice from the living room, still on the phone, still making calls. Morning brought sunshine and the smell of pancakes. While they ate, Ray's phone kept buzzing. Alex watched him read message after message, nodding to himself. "What's happening?" Alex finally asked. Ray put down his fork. "People are coming to help. People who will make sure you're heard." After breakfast, Lisa took Alex to the small balcony that looked over the street. "Watch," she said, pointing down to the corner. At first, Alex didn't understand what he was supposed to see. Then a motorcycle appeared, engine rumbling low like distant thunder. Behind it came another, and another, until 5 bikes were parked in a neat row. The riders stood beside them, leather vests catching the sunlight. "Those are Ray's friends," Lisa explained. "From the motorcycle club?" Alex asked. She nodded. "Just wait." By noon, the sun was high and hot. Alex sat on a kitchen chair by the window, counting as more motorcycles arrived. 10, then 20, then 50. They lined both sides of the street now, stretching around the corner. Ray came in from making another call. "It's time," he said. "The social workers will meet us there, and the police." Fear gripped Alex's stomach. What if they don't believe me? What if my dad convinces them I'm lying? Ray put a hand on his shoulder, careful to avoid the burns. "That's why we're all going, so they can't ignore you." They drove in Lisa's car. Alex counted the bikes as they passed. Over 100 now. At the end of Maple Street, they parked. The sight made Alex's breath catch. Motorcycles filled the road, a wall of chrome and leather. Men and women stood beside their bikes, quiet and waiting. Ray led Alex to a police officer and a woman with a clipboard who stood talking at the edge of the crowd. "This is Alex," he said. "He's ready to tell you everything." The woman knelt down to Alex's eye level. "I'm Mrs. Taylor from Child Services. We're going to listen to you, Alex. I promise." As they walked toward the house with the perfect lawn, Alex felt his legs shake. Neighbors had come out to their porches and driveways, watching with wide eyes. Some held up phones, recording. Windows filled with faces. No one spoke, but the message was clear. Everyone was watching now. The social worker knocked on the front door. When it opened, Alex's father stood there in a crisp blue shirt and tie, like he was heading to church. His smile appeared automatically, then froze when he saw Alex standing between the social worker and the police officer. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice pleasant, but his eyes hard as they fixed on Alex. Before anyone could answer, his gaze moved past them to the street beyond. The color drained from his face as he took in the sea of motorcycles and riders. 163 of them now, Alex would learn later. The biggest gathering the club had ever organized. "Sir," the officer said, "we need to talk about your son." For the first time in Alex's memory, his father had no words, no excuses, no perfect mask to hide behind. In the silence that followed, Alex found his voice. "I'm not going back in there," he said, and the words felt like freedom. 6 months passed like a dream. Winter turned to spring, and spring to summer. Alex lived with a foster family now, a quiet couple with a yellow dog named Buddy, who slept at the foot of Alex's bed every night. His room had blue walls that he got to pick himself, and a window that looked out on a backyard with a tall oak tree. The burns had faded to scars, some nearly invisible now. Alex no longer pulled his sleeves down when people looked at him. He no longer jumped at loud noises or hid when someone knocked on the door. These were big changes, his counselor said. Good changes. Today was special. Alex stood outside the community center, watching cars pull into the parking lot. Inside, a support group for kids like him was about to start. Mrs. Taylor, his social worker, had asked if he would share his story. "You don't have to," she had said, "but it might help others know they're not alone." The door to the center opened, and Ray stepped out. He still looked big in his leather vest, but Alex no longer felt afraid when he saw him. Ray came by the foster home once a week, sometimes with Lisa, sometimes alone. They would sit on the back porch and talk, or just be quiet together. Ready? Ray asked. Alex nodded. I think so. Inside, 10 kids sat in a circle of chairs. Some looked down at their shoes. Others watched the door with careful eyes that reminded Alex of himself, back in that diner 6 months ago. Mrs. Taylor stood at the front, smiling as they entered. Everyone, she said, this is Alex and his friend Ray. Alex took a deep breath. Hi, he said. My name is Alex. 6 months ago, I ran away from home because my dad was hurting me. The words still felt hard to say, but they no longer stuck in his throat. I didn't think anyone would believe me, but then I met Ray. He told them about the diner, the rain, how Ray had listened. He told them about the day the motorcycles came to Maple Street, how 163 bikers had stood witness while the truth finally came out. He didn't tell them about his father's trial or the jail sentence. That part wasn't important today. Sometimes, Alex said, it takes an army to be heard, and sometimes that army comes from places you'd never expect. After the meeting, Alex and Ray walked outside together. The summer air felt warm on Alex's face. In the parking lot, Ray's motorcycle waited, shining in the sun. Beside it was a smaller bike, a beginner's model that Ray was teaching Alex to ride. You did good in there, Ray said. Alex smiled. Thanks for coming. Always will, Ray answered. As they stood there, a car pulled into the lot. A woman got out with a boy about Alex's age. The boy wore a long-sleeved shirt despite the heat. His eyes were down, shoulders hunched, a pose Alex knew too well. The woman looked tired and scared as she guided the boy toward the center door. Ray and Alex shared a look. Without a word, they walked over. Is this the support group? The woman asked, her voice shaking a little. Yes, Alex said. He looked at the boy, who still wouldn't raise his eyes. I'm Alex. I just shared my story in there. The boy glanced up for a second. I'm Tyler, he whispered. The group's just starting, Alex said. I can show you where to go. Tyler hesitated, then nodded. As they walked toward the door, Alex looked back. Ray stood talking quietly with Tyler's mom, the same way he had once talked to Alex in that rainy diner. Inside, the circle of chairs waited. Outside, beyond the parking lot, more motorcycles were pulling up. 5, then 10. Ray's friends coming to show support again. Alex held the door open, feeling the weight of his old fear lift away like rain clouds clearing after a storm. It gets better, he told Tyler. I promise.